All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. The Bears have been busy this offseason, really getting some good moves done in the free agency period. But how they got some of these moves done, some of the players, what their decision, the rationale of coming to the Bears, I think it was really interesting, showing that there's a lot of hope, there's a lot of confidence in what the Bears organization has going on so far. And I think it's a really good sign for them going forward. We'll dive into all that in just a moment here. But first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, some moves that the Bears were able to make this free agency period just shows there's a lot of confidence in this team, and they're able even to swoop in and get some guys despite other teams really trying to go after them. Let's first pull up the deal. The only deal really we're going to talk about is Bears and edge rusher Dayo Odeyingbo. And I want to refresh everybody kind of what that deal looks like. It shows from Ian Rappaport, they signed him to a 3-year deal worth $48 million, $16 million per year, $32 million guaranteed. So good contract by the Bears. But that's not the key here. The key here is what the Bears were able to do as far as going and getting Odeyingbo. And let's jump into that article. This is from Athlon Sports. It says, Chicago Bears quickly found new pass rusher earlier this month. On the first day of negotiations, they agreed to terms on a 3-year, $48 million contract, with defensive end Dayo Odeyingbo making his signing official 3 days later after the 2025 league year began. It turns out the Bears also swiped him away from the Green Bay Packers, according to A to Z Sports, Wendell Ferreira and Destin Adams. The Packers were expected to make Odeyingbo a 2021 second-round pick, one of their top targets when free agency negotiating period opened up on March 10th. Instead, Odeyingbo chose to sign with the Bears and later made it clear that the opportunity in Chicago made his decision rather easy in free agency. Now, I think that on its own is important, but what everyone has to understand, and we've done some videos on this as well, the Packers were set to be extremely aggressive in this free agency period. Numerous times Gutekunst came out and said, we are going to do whatever it takes to get things done. So assuming that the Packers gave just as aggressive as an offer as the Bears did, were willing to spend even more money, maybe even more guaranteed money, Odeyingbo, a very desirable player in this free agency period, decided to go with the Bears, and I think that speaks a lot about what this team has going on. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but before we get to you, Bears fans, in the comment section below, now that you kind of get the gist of what we have said, that Odeyingbo, he likes what the Bears are cooking. He loves what Ben Johnson has going on. This team, there's a lot of hope there. Let us know, what are your thoughts now that the first kind of round of free agency has settled? We've seen the strategy of this team so far. How do you feel now about the first, few weeks and months of Ben Johnson's tenure here in Chicago? Are you graded an A? You're extremely comfortable. You think this team is on the trajectory to go win a championship one day? Is it a C? You still need to see what the draft holds. You want to see what that comes out to, and then maybe you'll be a little bit more comfortable. Or is it somehow an F and you hate everything and you still just same old Bears, nothing is ever going to change? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest out of the Bears?
Yeah, I think it's actually a pretty incredible job by the Bears front office, an outstanding story to highlight the future of Chicago. Because, like you said, the Packers came into this offseason, they were hyper aggressive, right? They were going to overpay. They were willing to overpay a little bit, at least traditionally, the way Green Bay does. They went after the guard banks. They did this with Hobbs the corner. They were all aggressive. They were coming into this offseason. We're going to spend money, sense of urgency from the Packers front office. And yet, despite them being hyper aggressive, we don't know all the details, right? Green Bay was trying to trade for DK Metcalf, for example. That's how aggressive the Packers were trying to be. And they went after Odeyingbo with that same level of aggression. And despite that, the Bears were able to reel him into their side of the division. And I think what's really important and really wild to think about here is that if you look at the past 5 seasons and really 6 seasons, if you want to go back that far, the Packers have had winning seasons 5 of those times, right? The Bears have had 0 during that stretch, right? So we're not talking like two of the top teams in terms of wins and losses over the past 6 years. The Packers have been winning a lot of games. They've been making deep playoff runs going back to 2019 and even prior to that. The Bears, they've made the playoffs once. They went 8-8 that one year, one and done, right? This has been a struggling franchise for Chicago over the past few years. And yet, despite that, they were able to beat out their Green Bay Packers to get Odeyingbo, and not because the Bears did anything spectacular, right? Mike Garofalo reported earlier in the cycle that Odeyingbo, just with the salary cap adjustments and market demands, he was going to get a huge deal and had a massive amount of demand from a bunch of people, right? So it wasn't like the Bears and the Packers were the only two teams duking at it. There was a whole market for Odeyingbo. He could have gone wherever he wanted, and it came between Green Bay and Chicago. Green Bay threw a lot of money at him. Green Bay has won winning seasons 5 of the last 6 years. They made the playoffs last year, last 2 years. And despite all that, he chooses the Chicago Bears. I think this is what we call a leading indicator, right? There are indicators that can point where anything's going, whether team's going to win, team's going to lose, right? One indications of a leading indicator that a team is really going to lose is locker room discomfort, distractions, right? A team may be winning, but if there's some distractions, it usually means some losing's right around the corner. This is the opposite of that. When players want to go to a team where they haven't started winning yet and they're turning down winning teams to go there, that's a leading indicator that that team's on the upswing. There's a spike. There's real momentum, right? We talk about players all the time, and sometimes in the media, people treat it like a video game where it's just, well, what are the ratings of the players and the teams individually? Someone in 84 is a team in 88, right? And you just base everything off of that. The reality is these are human beings. They live off of momentum, energy, vibes, connections, and right now there is nothing but energy and momentum behind the Chicago Bears franchise. I mean, you can legitimately feel it across the board. And we're not Bears fans saying this. We're just saying you can feel this across the NFL sphere. In postseasons past, Ryan Poles, and we've seen this a number of times, has had to overpay or give up a lot of assets to go out and get a player. Chase Claypool is a great example of this, right? He made the great deal for DJ Moore, but there's been honestly some deals that Ryan Poles shelled out a lot of dollars or a lot of assets to bring a player into Chicago. And that's because there wasn't the same amount of vibes. There wasn't the same amount of energy. There wasn't the pure unbridled momentum just riding underneath the surface here. And right now, that's what we're seeing in Chicago. And to be honest, I know I'm going to bring up another NFC North team, but this feels very similar to the Detroit Lions from a couple years ago when they had that great finish to the season. They finished 9-8, and then they went into the next two seasons, the past 2 years, and had double-digit win seasons, made the playoffs both seasons. It has that same kind of vibe and energy where it's just everyone is behind this organization, new entries, veterans, rookies, trades, free agents, quarterbacks, coaches, everybody has the same amount of energy, momentum, and pointed in the same direction, right? And I think a lot of credit has to go to the Ben Johnson effect. I know he was a great offensive play caller. The question was going to be, what can he do to be a leader and inspire and things like that? But if you look at everything that has happened with the Bears, it's the same GM, right? Warren's been around a few years. It's obviously the same ownership group, a lot of the same players in terms of the core talent over the past couple seasons. What has changed? It's been Johnson and his staff. And with that change, we've seen basically everybody. It's not just, we did a video about this about a week ago. The opposition is recognizing this too. Amon-Ra St. Brown has come out and said, what the heck are the Bears doing overnight? They step functioned like 2 steps into a really good football team. Everyone is noticing it. The competitions and all the free agents, all the rookies, they all want to go to Chicago right now. It has that sort of Pied Piper vibe. And once you get that energy and once you get that momentum, as long as you don't suck, right? As long as the Bears don't go 5-12 or something next year, they don't have to win a championship, but they go 8, 9, 10 wins, show improvement. That momentum, that energy will continue to compound going forward. Right now, Bears fans, you are in a phenomenal position because there's nothing but energy and momentum behind you from players, rookies, veterans across the board, coaches. They all see it, they all feel it, and everybody wants to be a part of Chicago right now.
Yeah, Nick, and we talk about this a lot, and we talk about this especially like in college, evaluating players, and we talk about players looking good in spring practice stuff, and it's like, well, it's just spring, but also we say this is all you have to go on at this point. And when with Ben Johnson with this team, it's just free agency, it's just very early on in this period, but this is kind of all you have to evaluate the team. Everyone assumes that Ben Johnson is going to come in. We assume that his scheme is proven. He's going to get good results on the field offensively. The Bears, no changes at all. Implement Ben Johnson. This team will be better offensively. That is a given. It's not. The Bears have a really big problem. So does Ben Johnson on his hands. but we all assume that he knows what he's doing. We've seen the results year after year. There's a correlation to Ben Johnson making teams better offensively. Now, what could he do as a leader? What could he do as for lack of a better term, a hype maker? Can he get the momentum around a team going forward? And that undoubtedly is yes. And this is the spring practice of the NFL. We're seeing some stuff go on. We're seeing players decide to go with the Bears. The hype is getting there. People are believing in this team. It's early, but this is all we have to go on. And so far, it seems really good. And I go back to Odeyingbo's comments about when he joined Chicago. And he said, "We have an opportunity to do something special in this city, and it's exciting. This wasn't an opportunity I could pass up on, and it really didn't make the decision that hard." And I think the key here for me is when talking about Odeyingbo, he says it wasn't a hard decision, but obviously the Packers, they were going after him with probably trying to go over the top as far as money, at least trying to get an edge some way, shape, or form. So the fact that he comes out here and says, "Hey, it was an easy decision," I think it shows the Ben Johnson effect in full swing here. People really love it. Like you said, free agents want to come here. It's going to show rookies want to come here. I know it's really not like super important, but undrafted free agents, when that comes around, people are going the best undrafted free agents, they're going to want to come to Chicago. They're going to want to say, "Hey, Ben Johnson, he's doing some really good stuff. I think that he can make me better." You better believe any good offensive undrafted free agent, anyone that has a prayer of making the league, is going to say, "Hey, I want to be in the Ben Johnson offense because at the very least, I think I'm going to get some good shine from it. I think it's going to make me look better as a player." So I think overall, this is a really good sign for the Bears going forward. It's early. All we have to go on, though, and in that case, I think the Bears are looking much improved this year than they were in previous.
And when you look at Odeyingbo's contract, right, it's a 3-year deal. So it's not like Odeyingbo got like a massive deal. It wasn't an incredibly amount of guaranteed money in terms of the percentage of the contract. And really, it's backloaded. So really, after 2026, the Bears could cut and run and save $15 million of cap space with only a $4.5 million cap hit. So it's a very team-friendly deal. So let's reset the table here and just make sure everyone understands here. So Odeyingbo was coming into a free agent class where everybody wanted him. Everyone says he's going to make a huge deal. He's a quality player that's available. Salary cap increases. It's a position of need. The Green Bay Packers, a team that's won winning seasons 5 of the last 6 years, obviously made the playoffs last 2 years, go into this saying, "We want Odeyingbo." They go aggressive. They already have been overpaying this entire offseason. We know they're showing a lot of dollars out. Odeyingbo got a big offer from Green Bay. We can extrapolate that. The Bears gave Odeyingbo a fair offer, but they didn't overpay for it, and they structured it in a very team-friendly way. And despite all those factors, Odeyingbo said, "I went to Chicago, and it wasn't a hard choice." And let's also not forget that it's not like Odeyingbo is going to the Bears' defensive line or their front seven, and he's now the superstar, the face of the franchise. He's not, right? We know the structure of this front four and this front seven, and really this defense as a whole. He's not even really a top one or top two named guy on this defense. If he goes to Green Bay, probably a different story, at least on that defensive line. So we're looking at Odeyingbo here saying, "I'm going to turn down the Packers. I'm going to turn down being a bigger name. I'm going to turn down a more favorable contract, maybe more money, at least the same amount of money, probably more guaranteed, that I'm going to go to Chicago." And all of those factors I'm going to push to the side. The only reason players do that is because they think the future is going to lead to a lot of winning, right? That's what I mean when I say it's a leading indicator. If players think this way, and Odeyingbo is kind of a public example of this, but you can kind of see undercurrents in this throughout the entire offseason. You bring up a great point with the undrafted free agents. Those things really matter when it comes to filling out special teams and depth pieces post-draft. When you look at these indications, you can really see right now that everyone thinks the Bears are going to win, right? This is different than other off seasons where the media thought the Bears were going to win, right? When Rich Eisen says he thinks the Bears are good, that's nice. When quality NFL players and the competition say the Bears are going to be good, that's about 1,000 times better. And I know a lot of people were happy with the Ben Johnson hire and all the moves the Bears have made this offseason. They made a lot of really good ones. But the big question mark was going to be, how does this culture come together? How does this locker room come together? And so far, incredible returns on that front. And to kind of wrap this one up here, to put a bow on this, Miles, like I always love to do, is put you on the spot. What do the Bears do next, right? Do they just sit tight and wait for the draft? Or do you think they got another move to make? Or what do you think is going on with Chicago? And if they wait to the draft, what position group or what player, maybe there's just a wild card out there that you're thinking about, do you think the Bears should target?
think it's interesting, and I read some stuff recently, actually yesterday, about the Bears trying to get some insight on things. And I do think probably we maybe minor moves, but I think they're waiting to the draft to fill out and see what they need to go do. Obviously, the Bears, I think they could use a linebacker. A linebacker would really help things out. I think they're going to look at running back, and I think this is how I see the Bears attacking this draft. I think if sitting in the first round, if Ashton Gianti is able to make it to them, I do believe that they go after him. We've heard the hype around him. He's been connected to Chicago numerous different times. They really seem to like him, and we know Ben Johnson's affinity of having, a running back by committee. I think that Gianti will be the next big thing, the next, force maximizer for the offense, is be able to really get things rolling. Now, I don't really think he's going to make it all the way to the Bears, and that's where my truth on is. I think the Bears trade back in the first round. I think they're at a spot where Gianti makes a lot of sense to get him there, but other things that they need, maybe another tackle, maybe another linebacker, it doesn't make sense to get someone there. So I really see them trading back, getting more draft capital. Not sexy, very smart, but I know Bears fans probably want it would cap the offseason if they're able to get Gianti. Everything's roses, everything's really exciting. I think trading back should be something they really should consider here, because I don't think at the spot they are at, it might be a reach to get what they really need for this team. So in that case, trade back, get some more draft capital, and build this team to be as successful as possible.